and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. So hello there everyone, and welcome to the second part of the video where we will be going deeper and we will discuss some of the things that are really important in terms of alignment with this letting go, with allowing flow, so that the higher aspects of us can come through, so that we can co-create with life at the higher level of expansion and unity consciousness. Because as you know, we tend to fall into these patterns of density, and we all sometimes can become too much intermingled with all of these things. So in this video, we're going to discuss how to move into this state to become a vessel. And when I say a vessel, this is not the same as being a channel. This is not, we're going to now receive messages. This is being an actual physical vessel for the transformation of this light, of higher consciousness to occur in our bodies, okay? So that we can become the gift of life, the gift of freedom, the gift of liberation, that we can give the gift of expansion to all life and creation. So I have this beautiful pink stone with me today. I was gifted this stone, so just to let you aware, it's going to be with us as we're going to receive these higher frequencies. So I was up in the mountain before, and now I came down to the valley. I came down to the water. It's a little louder here. Well, before we had the wind, now we have the bursting water, but I really love to be around all these types of nature environment when I'm doing my videos, so that I can really be aligned with my core essence, which is a being aligned with Elohim consciousness, which is the creation principles unified in a human form, a form that can translate these messages and bring a higher refinement state. Okay, so the first thing I wish to share with you today in the second part is a message. It's like a spirit message, and I don't do this often, but I have these 3 oracles here with me, and I was guided to take them as I took my journey today. And the first card is the earth. So this consciousness of Gaia, of Mother Nature, of Mother Earth, and what she wants us to align with, how we can assist her at our best. The frequency of Earth activates our deep connection to this physical plane by showing us the beauty of all the aspects of our Great Mother and revealing the more ethereal, spiritual aspects of our nature. So this is what I do. And I hope you can see behind me, I wanted to record with the yellow trees that are truly starting to blossom this year. And I've actually asked someone when I went to the mountains of the name of these trees. So the man told me. And I said, well, I didn't see them, really like blossoming until this year so much. And he said, yeah, probably they don't do it every year. So this, for me, it's like this magical gift of nature has really blossomed this year. I've never seen as many flowers and blossoming as this year, even though there's a lot of chaos and confusion. So we want to talk about that, okay? What I've also received is we've been having for maybe 2 weeks here very stormy weather, very interesting weather patterns, and basically I was shown that this means we've entered into this almost like a cosmic cloud, a space of highly potentialized energy, and through a lot of these thunderstorms and lightnings, these new frequencies are starting to anchor themselves on the planet at this time. Okay, so the second message is divine grace, the law of efficiency. Okay, hello yellow white butterfly. White orange butterfly. And the second one is specialization, or the third one actually. And there's the circle, as you can see, around this being, and it shows this completion. And when I was reading into this message, it really read like allowing life to become more graceful, allowing ourselves to be more filled with this light, because a lot of times we get, as I've shared before, we get too interactive with the dense energies instead of interacting with the higher essence of life, bringing it through, and then just allowing life force to act through us as vessels. Again, not the same as channels. When we're a vessel, We don't have any intention. The intention is not even on channeling. We don't even have to say, I want to channel these beings, or I need to receive these messages. And I've been really guided to becoming more of a vessel in the past few months, because my life force has been withdrawing so much. So I think this card about the divine grace, the law of efficiency, just slips out of my hand, is about allowing life to get easier. Not easier meaning without challenges, but the challenges are not seen anymore as obstacles or difficulties, but simply a passageway of one stage of life into another. So it's like this allowing phase that moves us into a higher frequency state. So the message of specialization then is about, you know, a lot of us have been doing broader work, like let's say anchoring awareness and sharing with the groups of people, and very much broader work. And people have been saying, I'm so multifaceted, I'm so oriented towards many things, and I've been doing the same thing. The specialization energy is when we complete that, and you can see there's a being who creates this full circle of light. And from this completion and the gathering of our earthly experiences, especially for volunteer souls, now we can enter into the state when we say, okay, what's next, and how can I focus more or zoom in more into a more specialized frequency of what I'm really here to do at this time? Because remember, it's always about at this time. So we're moving more from this grander or broader view, and, you know, just filling our space with this spectrum energy. So it's like, imagine having all the rainbow colors and then creating a fusion that's in different proportions, creating a unique color and the tone, a tonal attunement that's aligned just with us, with our essence, our inner core. And it has to be aligned with Earth and how to assist the planet Earth at this time. Those of us who are doing that, we're definitely nature healers. We are empathic beings who are here to bring unique messages that are kind of like going in a specific direction. So in my way, I was, you know, addressing a much broader audience, and I've started to focus more and more, zoom in more and more. And have you noticed I've also had a decreased number of views in my videos because of this more focused view, because in the beginning I had more broader topics. And as I start to zoom in, people just withdraw who are not ready for that, who don't resonate with that particular level, or who don't have the light quotient to build that template at this state. You know, they're simply somewhere else. What this means also, you know, if you've been a broader follower, or, you know, been with me for a longer period of time, perhaps you've seen how the topics have been moving more from this. First it was like a general overview, you know, what we're going through in the awakening, and then it kind of zoomed into the personal mastery, and then we broaden up again. We've opened up the perspective again, started to address the galactic and higher levels of attunement, and now we're zooming in again. Well, this is what I'm experiencing personally. If you're experiencing that as well, then you might resonate with this, what I'm sharing now. And it's always like this at every level. You know, we create space, and sometimes people call that boredom, and it's not boredom, it's just creating space so that new things can be born. You know, we create space for new types of things we're gonna create in a reality at a specific point. This means that if you feel boredom, if you feel a lack of interest in things around you, means you've already completed something. It no longer brings you that infatuated energy, that boost in consciousness, or the thrill of the experience. And it's like, okay, I've been there, done that. And somehow a state of that passageway, which a lot of people are feeling now as, I feel even more isolated, or I feel even more alone, or I don't know what to do now. It feels so vacuum-like, or this void. And I've spoken about the great cosmic void before, and the void of creativity. And this has been in your divine feminine principle. So a lot of you have been coming into the stage where you want to become just a vessel. And this is the essence level. The essence level is when you get to be the vessel for whatever wants to come through you at a specific point that serves the highest good. That's not the same as, you know, when people say, I give away my will for greater, I don't know, some kind of divine will, but they're not ready for it. So what they create in terms is a lack of personal experience that did not yet complete their masterful journey, and yet they already want to be whole and unified with everything and everyone. And it's kind of like losing yourself to a greater whole. The completion of this and becoming a vessel has nothing to do with losing yourself to be a part of the whole. You have to become fully yourself in order to work for the greater whole, to specialize in a certain point. And if you want to have more understanding of this process, I also have a mini audiobook called The Cosmic Training for Volunteer Souls, which describes this process of how we refine these levels of our mastery, how we go through this training from one step to the other, what we have to master to get to certain points for certain levels of initiation. So the first thing I want to address today as a part of this is through this journey of self-mastery, a lot of us have, in a way, not thrown out, but we've dissolved this idea we have these guides and angels and masters because we really needed to refine our energy, our pillar, our vortex. That's a natural part of this whole process, okay? So now, at the stage where we are now, we're once again, and I hope that's not a mosquito though, I don't want to get bitten. Where we are now is like we're ready to, from this vortex space, from this level, from this beingness or embodiment of the vessel, we're ready to invite these higher forces or higher essences. And again, I want to read you from this book, The Eye of the Centaur, which talks about the angelic presence and how it works in operation or cooperation with human consciousness, and how it can help to expand human consciousness or the consciousness of life. Okay? Good. So there is a description here of a being that is perceived from the angelic level. When you perceive yourself as an angel, as an angelic being, and I'll start reading from there on, okay? I am in a place of golden light. It is a temple, but I also see golden clouds, but I am at the same time also on the physical plane as an angel. And I am in two places at once. I live in this golden light, very warm, it's like the sun. And everything is just very different. And then I come down, like right now, I'm down in the top, in the airspace, in the top of the cathedral, and it's about 6th or 7th century. I see black slate walls with drawings on them, and I have some very special information as my gift because I was present very, very often on the earth plane, but as a spirit, as an angel. As an angel, I am a mental being, and my consciousness can affect people's minds. This church is very old for a Christian church, and the energy up here is very divine. There are places on earth where the energy is very fine, and one of these places in the age of Pisces is in the Christian churches. Many angels come here. We come here because we like it here. Often we come when the people start to sing. I love humans, and I can feel what it is like to be human since I'm human at times also. We can do quite a few things to humans if we want to. We can go into their minds and change their thoughts. I can go into their bodies and make them feel good. I am like a cloud. I can go right into them, but only if they want me. If they don't want me, I can't do it. Humans have these powers potentially while they're on the earth because they can remember being angels too, but it is hard for them to develop these powers and easy for me. I've tried to go into the humans who don't want me, and I can't because their bodies are like stone. But sometimes I rearrange the cells in their bodies to make them feel better, to make them fill with light, to make them feel good and be happy. I am radiant and they are dense. If I use my radiance with their density, if I shine in them, they feel a spirit. They feel they're shifted and changed. There are lots of us here, and some people here have more angels around them than others. The spiritual people have the most angels around them. Regular people just think about their houses, the children, or food. But spiritual people have learned how not to think. They feel the angelic presence so strongly that they don't think anymore. For example, as I look down into the body of the church, there are a few down there who are all white light. We can pass in and out of them like the wind. They turn into white light by stopping thinking and magnetically drawing in the spiritual essences. They have gone through a lot of stages in their incarnations, and they become adept at shifting into higher levels of awareness. Then we gravitate to them. It is a gravitational issue. It is also magnetic because we're naturally drawn to the light, and then we try to magnetize those who are not so light. I'm also going to read you what is the essence level here. It describes it, and I've, as you know, talked a lot about the essence level. So when the being died and went into the higher planes, that's how they experienced this state of pulsating. And they said something up ahead is pulsating, vibrating, and as I get closer, it vibrates faster and faster. I go into the center, and as I enter it, I lose all of my physical being. It is an essence, and in the center, it is vibrating so fast that it has no vibration. It is an essence, and I went to the essence also after my different lifetime. So the essence level, I've talked about it many times, that even when you're in the physical, we can work from that level, we can operate from that level. But what's important is here that we have to become vessels, okay? So I'm going to continue reading about the angel's experience and what's important and how to connect as humans. We can tell about someone's light because we can see their emotional state. For example, see down there in the church, there's a man and he's all black cloud around him. He's angry and he's red too, black and red, and it is also cold around him. We can reach him and we don't try. Only an earth healer can reach a person who is red and black. Our work is only to magnetize those who can be drawn. But there are more people receptive here in the church than outside because they come here to make this contact. They don't know that is why they're here, but that is why they come. When they're in the marketplace or whatever, they're not thinking about the spiritual things. The ones who always have the most light are the children. We visit them, and the most often, especially the little children, the babies. Some babies are so shining that they even almost blind us. At age 7, all children begin to have less light because the child must then learn to use the will, the real use of the will. This lesson temporarily clouds the inner vision. When they're old enough to have true choice, then they can reject the light. Because of this age factor, we work very hard with the children to fill them with our light so they will recognize it more easily after they have gone through the crises of the will. We do what we can whenever we can because the human will limits our force. It is a complex issue, and I would like to show you how it works because some humans are not aware of the greatest ally and force they have at their disposal, the angelic force. And then it goes about describing the process, how an angel being is magnetized towards a being that's actually Nostradamus, and how it fuses the mind energy of the angelic force with the being called Nostradamus, and it observes everything through him, and it helps to guide him in times of need. So whenever we express this desire, this need, right, it's like we are calling forth to be emptied out, to receive from this higher space. So let's say now I've mentioned to you a couple of issues, right, that bother us, or this chaos in this current state of being. One choice or one good conscious decision is when we go to retreat into nature and we feel this greater silence, this greater void, we can enter a pure space, and then our consciousness starts to expand. We attract these things and beings. So when you feel sometimes, when they describe kind of like they merge with, they go into the person in terms of merging with consciousness. When you feel those shivers, I feel that. I feel like I have these goosebumps. Not like shivers when you have goosebumps, but it's more like surface on the skin kind of goosebump, that it's like someone touching you. And when this happens, is these beings are, we say touching us, but they're energetically through us and being magnetized to us, creating this link. So when we are working on becoming the vessel, we're going to start to notice more and more of these higher sensations in the body, but without the expectation, okay? So that's why I said to become a vessel is not the same as to have desire to channel or to do something, because there's still a little will there. So in order to become a vessel, first of all, we have to master our will, which means we're not entering into a space of where we don't know the self. Because when humans do that, they tend to attract other entities into them who say, well, this person doesn't know who they are. Well, let me jump into their field and let me just bring a little bit of who I am, let me entangle with their energy. So it's important to create this state of openness from a space of fullness, from an inner knowing who we are. So when the will is mastered, then the will can be surrendered. This is the basic law of harmonious attunement to what we call becoming the vessel, or to enter the state of the essence. The essence is the vessel state. So to be a vessel means, let's say I go somewhere and I have this desire to do this or to be there, and at the same time life force pushes me or nudges me in a different direction. I have to share with you, I had a beautiful experience today. It was kind of a little scary for me at first. So when I came on the top of the mountain, well, this is very intimate, but I'm feeling the call to share with you anyway. When I came to the top of the mountain, I started to have a heavy menstrual flow, which I usually don't have. And it felt like it's all going to come through in my clothes, and I was like getting a little afraid. And then I hear this presence, or feel the presence that just tells me, just do it the natural way. And I'm like, what? You know, I'm supposed to just get undressed and sit there, and there's of course no one there because it's a remote mountain. And I felt really unpleasant at first, and I said, you know what, I have no other choice. Put my clothes down, I sat there on the patch of grass amongst all the stones, and I just said, okay, if I'm meant to do that, I'm being the vessel. I don't have any intention, I'm just allowing to feel what needs to come through me. And I felt some tears wanted to come through. I didn't know why, I didn't know the reason, because when it's our thing, when it's something ours, we will feel it. When it's something unexplained, we just feel certain feelings. We're usually acting as a vessel or a conduit for something to move through us. And the more people that will ready themselves to enter the state of being the vessels, the more potential is there for these changes, or changes to occur more smoothly, to occur more consciously, and for us to be the driving force without that will. So when we master the self, and I've talked all these years about self-mastery and refinement, then at a certain level we're going to be asked to even withdraw from that, to say, okay, you've said you mastered this and that, and okay, you've shown yourself this, how it feels to be a master of your reality. Now, are you ready for this greater reality? And this greater reality is not like something we will expect now. It's this magical occurrence and something will happen. So the channel that I received today said, it's just about allowing a full flow of surrender. Because that surrender is automatically linked to acceptance. And acceptance is the natural law of how life force operates. Because it's done through unity consciousness. The moment you're in separation, you're never fully accepting things or allowing things to be as they are, because there's always a little bit of that control left. The will to control, same thing. With this embodiment of being the vessel, there will come a time when something within you will just start to dissolve, and it will feel scary at first, because a part of you will want to say, but this is me, and this is what I did, and this is how I was. You know, like in my example, for these almost 8 years, I've done these messages. I did the challenge, I did the videos. It's almost 900 videos, I think, on YouTube, but I did more. And the courses, and the audios, and the everything. And I was so used to being in that flow of constant creative mode, which sometimes was also, you know, needing to do lots of things and go places and write things and be at the computer. At a certain point, I felt such an emptiness in me, such a vacuum space, that I had no other choice but just, you know, either to accept it, to receive it as a gift, or to say, well, this is a hoax, this is weird, I'm not doing this, I'm not used to it, you know, I'm functioning better when I'm like that. But I felt it's coming from life force. It didn't come from this state of stagnation. I meditated on it, and it was like this presence which told me that the more I'm in this state, actually the more that I do. And that's the message of that card which I showed you, the law of grace, to be in this higher state where life is more easier, it's more smoother. We don't have to do always so much in order to create change, create a space of this higher vision. The next thing I'm called or guided to share from a group of light, they said a lot of beings of the light, a lot of starborn people, they're here on the planet Earth, and sometimes they wonder what they're supposed to do, and they get no answer, so they think, well, something's wrong with me. I'm supposed to do something specific. When I said specialization, it's not the same as now it relates to, we're going to do that kind of workshop, or we're going to do that kind of work, and we're going to give it a certain name and a label, and, you know, it's going to be our brand. You know, it's going to be something we create. It's not about that. Specialization is a specific part of self-mastery journey that when you specialize within yourself, when you've done the work, you're now ready for bigger things. And this is what I explained in the beginning. So when my light family or the group have shared with me that now you're actually just entering a greater space, you're ready to do more work, but this is where work is different. So this is where it gets complex, okay? It's no longer what we've had before. We had to set up templates and layers, and we thought we need to have this kind of purpose, live our purpose. The purpose is such a broad term, it can't even be put into one sentence in human terms, okay, of our vocabulary. So it is very important to understand that these people, these star-born people, a lot of them are here simply to be the vessels. What does this mean? There are many facets of how the Earth plan, the plan of Earth Ascension, in the grander scheme of cosmic ascension is to unfold. So within our multi-layered nature, we're holding specific keys or tonal attunements that tell us if this collective level energy goes more into this direction, that kind of energy will flow through us as vessels. If, on the other hand, it goes more into this direction, that will occur. So there's many of these different choices. So these starborn people or volunteer souls, they actually carry this potential within them magnetically. So when there would be, let's say, a specific need for something like that to occur because of the, like greater chosen reality, they would act a certain way without the will. But that force, that they hold within themselves magnetically would kind of create that alteration, would create, because it will fuel life force there in that direction. And this is where we understand that everything is so perfect as it is, although we don't always see it. There's a lot of people here who are meant to only be, who are like antennas, who are the vessels and maybe they don't consciously know it yet. On the other hand, to masterfully enter the state of the presence called to be a vessel is something that's, again, it's a higher level of understanding, because you're consciously doing it and yet you're not in control of it. You're not saying, I want to be like this. It's not about being a specific way. This is being of specific frequency attunement, being of a specific spherical existence that navigates life through you a certain way. Okay, it sends a certain pulse. So if you imagine it like a pulse of life comes through the directive, and your mission team helps to hold that, and then there's your soul, and the soul kind of creates this trajectory of where you're supposed to go next. So let's say, in comparison to what people would say, okay, this is now a prophetic or psychic vision, that you're going to experience this or that, or meet your life partner like this, and within this time frame. In comparison to this internal navigation, it's completely different, because this is like the shifting reality within a greater divine plan. And this is where no one knows. This is when we get to attune to that I don't need to know in order to know kind of consciousness. So this is the vessel. So the family of light have channeled through me that in this time it is of such importance to hold the level of the essence, to hold the vessel embodiment. And as many people that are ready to come into that state of embodiment, nearing towards what is called the Cosmic Union and Ascension, and I've created, as you know, a whole Ascension course, which is the last mastery course on the list of what I've created. This is where things start to just naturally align. This is, when masters say, I don't work with the collective energy, I work with the individual, because when the individual is aligned and they're in tune with the greater forces and the life force flowing through them, the greater reality or the collective already aligns, because it's a direct reflection of that. And in the first part where we talked about this control or the Atlantean experiment, and how sometimes we still have resistance to that energy because there's fear around it, or fear of what was or what could be, the past or the future projection. To be a vessel means to let go of all of that, and for us as humans, that's usually the hardest to do. So let's get on to the practical ways of how we can do that. In the Ascension update, or I think it was one video before, I'm not sure, I've already explained, shared a very simple method with you, which is simply to call in an essence self level of that null zone or divine neutrality space when you're in the midst of either chaotic situation, witnessing nature atrocities, or victims, crimes against nature, crimes against humanity as well, crimes against whatever you can imagine it, anything that is based on separation instead of unity. And of course, divine love, which is the glue to all of that unity. So then just bring consciously through the breath that master within you, which knows exactly how to spread the energy or anchor energy into that situation, whatever it is. So I explain the issue that I'm bothered with many times in my human self is bothered with the bikes here, motorbikes. in our mountain passes and everywhere, and how there's pollution and noise. So instead of me going into that fear mode and feeling the density and feeling pulled into it, and from that pull, I still feel the need to constantly transform that energy. When we're in the essence level, we're beyond what needs to be transformed. We are the anchor, or that pillar consciousness. And as the creation pillar, I'm here to teach about that space of awareness, teach about the essence level. Sorry, I coughed into you, little buddy. Just wind brought something into my throat. So anyway, it's becoming vitally important that when we notice ourselves getting contracted in any way, to take a deep breath, and simply, you can even imagine it. You can say, I'm calling forth the essence level that's beyond all polarity, that's rooted in divine neutrality and divine love and unity consciousness. And then just feel into a little bit how that feels. And then call in the presence of the being we call Gaia. And say, divine will and Gaia's will as one. My will stands as a threshold, as a pillar in the middle, as a gatekeeper or a guardian, and I stand here. And I witness this from a space of detached reality and balanced polarity. And how can I just be a witness to that? Okay, first is the witness aspect within us to really unfold. Okay, because when we are in that, oh, this is like this is bad, this is like this, we are more in the space of information. So we are the one who comes to get informed, right? That's not the highest level yet, right? Then there's the spectator or the observer, and it observes. How can I witness that? How can I observe the reality from a higher, broader perspective? If you haven't done that, maybe once try to go up top of the mountain. When you come back to the valley, everything changes. This is how I alter a lot of my reality, a lot of the reality I work with as a life force cultivator and tantrika being, and see how that works into. Sorry, so many flies. The next aspect is to be a student. Then we're a student. Then the student is, you know what masters talk about, these different levels, right? The student is open to receive. So we talked about the angelic transmission, how to receive, how to be in tune with this greater mental capacity. So the angelic realm, the angelic kingdom, is not separate from our own angelic self, and it can attune us to the level that's beyond what we think we know. Then the next level is what the masters would term a disciple, or I call it the initiate, or the disciple, is the one who then starts to receive these high energies, and they start to transform. They start to be open to that higher transformation. The last level is what masters call the devotee. And from this level of devotion, this is where purity of the vessel state can start to occur. And this is where we're no longer using the will the way we used to before. The will is necessary when we're still mastering ourselves, of course, because without the will, we don't even know what free will is. And from free will to divine will, basically, because the free will exists within greater divine will, they're one and the same. But when we don't know how to use it, we use it within separation instead of unity consciousness. So the will itself is not bad, but the inappropriate usage of will is what creates separation and feeds on it, and it creates ripples of that. So that last stage of being a devotee is when we're a vessel, when we could do the highest level of work, the mission work. It's not even called mission at this level, right? At the vessel level, it's more like the mission is not your mission. It's the mission of life, how life wants to be expressed, how life is moving through at this particular point in time and space, and this particular day and age, and this particular day, and this particular now moment. So all these aspects, masters would say these are levels. But these are not levels you just, you know, from lower to higher. These are levels that we're always using in our human consciousness. So let's move through them once again, okay? So the first level is when we are the one who comes to get informed. We are the seeker, or the informational absorber, the seeker, right? The next state is the observer, you know, the one who opens up to receive awareness. And we're open to observe, to witness life. The third stage is to be a humble student, right? Student, this is where the teacher comes. The teacher is not always a person or a master, guru. Teacher is something within life that's higher than what we at that point are experiencing as the self. Okay, so then the teaching, expression or essence comes through, and then that next stage we can experience. I call it the initiate, or you can call it the disciple. For me, the initiate sounds better. Whatever, it's all good. And here is where we start to engage in that which we receive in these humble teachings, okay, through the student observation and the student consciousness expansion. And then the last stage, or that stage of within us, that's called the devotee, that which just naturally transforms through us. It's not like my will is doing that in order to transform, but it is that natural usage of power. So this is what the beings of light, my family of light, the Elohim, are showing me. It's that level when we simply allow. And when you experience all aspects of you, you are whole, because you're not simply ever a devotee, because then you're always up there somewhere, right? You're just pure consciousness, and you have no human experience. To know all these states within you, right, from the seeker to the devotee, is to really know what life is through all its expressions, through all its numerous ways and forms. And this is when we start to get really, really aware of what is the consciousness of life that simply is, as it wants to be expressed through us, without our need to control it or to make it a certain way. So for us to exist now in this world of chaos, confusion, everything that is, in these times of alteration, the way we can most greatly impact the laws of change is to exist in all these stages, to know all these states of being, but to know that the essence level is that which connects all of them, and it's all in unity consciousness. And when we act from this space, I'm going to give you one example. Let's say I'm talking again about these motorbikes, right? This example and experience. I talk about, look how they are, I'm informationally absorbing them. I'm the seeker. I'm seeing, I'm absorbing information that's given to me through the world, not just the media or books, but the world instantly gives me feedback about something in life. Then to take that from the stage of informational observer to the level of a devotee is a whole process, right? Because we have all these interlaying stages in between. And for us to coexist and intermingle all of them, because sometimes we need to share information so it gets out in the world. But for us to take that to the level when we can, in our own life experience, take everything we're experiencing from that first initial seeker stage, informational infusion stage, to the essence level that connects all of these, to the devotee stage, to that vessel level. This is when we truly are life itself. This is where we are being nothing but life. Life is informed through itself, through all that life created. Life is self-infused, self-created. Then it is self-absorbed. It absorbs information back into itself. And through the consciousness that the human consciousness can hold, it can move through all these stages, and it can become self-illumined, right? It illuminates itself to a certain point. So through those of you who are ready to go through these stages to embody that, life force will create miracles. Because you're not only going to say, oh, I need to act against this. I hate this, when these things happen, when motorbikes come, or these people act like this, and they're treating the environment poorly, or they're treating technology as it's a living god and it's not, and we want nature to be seen as sacred, not technology, and it's supposed to be vice versa. But instead of just using the first initial stage, being the seeker and acting from there, our role is to take that information to the level of the devotee, or the vessel level. So this is what I'm actually tuning into as I'm speaking. This is what they're showing me. I don't need to close my eyes anymore to talk about these things, because I've relaxed enough. In the beginning, I wasn't that relaxed yet to bring through these messages, so I need to close my eyes to be in tune. But now I can just look and just see what they're infusing my reality with, and I can feel the presence. So what's really important, and that's why I shared with you the angelic force reading, is to attune to this open state. Because when you're open, this higher mental transmission, which is the angelic transfer of thoughts into yours, will occur. And that's when you're going to be more open, and you're going to have an easier flow of feeling all these levels simultaneously. So when you do that, You're not going to have an explosion of emotion at the first bombardment, you know, of something. Let's say I'm bombarded with these motorbikes and I explode, because then I'm not using life force consciously. I'm depleting my energy. I'm not working at the highest level of my reservoir. But a lot of people also will stop at the level of being an observer or a spectator. And at the same time, it's also not all of you. It's not authentic to all that you are. People will say, I'm just here to observe life because I'm not actually from Earth. I'm an alternate being. I come from an alternate time, space, or reality or density, whatever you call it. Yes, okay, but you didn't come here only to be a spectator. You can do that from the angelic planes or realms or whatever. You know, there's ways we can do that. But we actually came here to witness all these aspects of our life force, to take everything to the level of that, from the lowest point of observation to the highest, and seeing no separation between any of these, okay? So instead of me acting against something, like a lot of activists do, they act against it because they're actually refusing that energy. They're resisting it, like we read in the first part of the book, right? So they're resisting that energy so they can create within a higher refined state. On the other hand, when we're working with becoming a vessel, we're taking that which feels like a resistance at first, and we're taking it through all those stages. The initial stage, informational observer, the seeker, through all these stages, so we can take it to the level of the devotee, where transformation or transfiguration of consciousness is automatic because we allow that higher flow. And a part of the angelic infusion and process is what helps us to get to that, how we cultivate it in our own mastery. So imagine this is like moving from the mastery that I create within myself into moving into a greater mastery of life. That's the basis here of all my sharing, of all my infusion of light for all of you, for all who are ready and interested in that, who are ready to take their steps in life, to know that there isn't just one aspect to who we are. So when we understand this broader perspective of life, this spectrum, we will see life as all of this. Life is information, and life is also this highest state, which is just pure life force moving through. And how can I be, from my essence self level, entwined or in the experience of life through all of these, instead of thinking of myself as separate or being just this. I'm just a spectator of life. Not really. Then you're defining yourself. So this is what they're showing me, the highest principle of how we at this time are shifting reality into not seeing it as prophetic and this will happen, that will happen. Well, there's a lot of projection in those scenarios and those realities when people are claiming whatnot, you know, in this day and age. But this is a higher way of allowing life to be what it wants to be. So any issue that in this world, it triggers us, it expands something within us that fires up the creative passion, the creative juices. Okay, that's good. But then how can we take it, right, from this state to the other? How can we be proactive in that state? Devote ourselves to a certain cause, not just be informed about a certain type of things that trigger us or, you know, fire us up. So this is what Spirit wanted to share. I hope it brings you some light of illumination. The stone, the pink stone, is once again saying hello. It was up in the mountain recharging with me. I wish you, as always, so much brightness in this times of chaos, but also intense illumination, because those of us who are witnessing this in order to assist, we're seeing how we can do that at greater levels now. And this is what the specialization means. We can specialize now. We can work at the higher level. So this is what the message is. It's not like choose one over the other, but take that to the next step, and what I already shared with you. So the divine grace, the law of efficiency, is when you're working at the, it's like the top level of being informed. It's like you're ready to take anything and take it to the top level, so that there is no separation. You see that you take that to the top, so you don't leave it there and say, well, I'm at the top, that's low consciousness. But anything, you're just pulling it upwards, and so that it can exist on all levels, so that anything that existed in creation as separate, meaning it exists only as the lower density, only as this, it has a chance to expand, because you're lifting life up to what life wants to itself lift up, you know, through you, lift itself up through you. So yeah, again, this card, I think it's very important. This image If you can meditate on it, it's also going to be posted in my messages on Instagram. And I do then write the blogs up as well, which are on my Diary of an Ascension Pioneers page. Whoa, goosebumps. Because it got from truly sunny and super warm to windy and cold. This is the Alps. This is how weather is. Just tune into the energy of what I shared today. Take it into your heart and see if you get any additional expanded messages from there, because my messages are not meant to inform you and that's it. The process is done because you've listened to me, check. No, you're not supposed to agree with me, or it's not about that. It's supposed to expand as an offering, help to expand your own consciousness and what you receive for yourself as a part of the whole within your own process, in your own time and space, in your own development and your own journey of life force mastery. So if you are interested, there's a trilogy of what I call this life force mastery, which I think I need to make into a whole package one day. But it's my Tantrica Life Force Mastery course. Then it's the Galactic Dance, or the Cosmic Dance for the Galactic Human. And the third one is Cosmic Union and Ascension. And these are all three formulated around the mastery of life force and how we can become the pillar in our own way. Really a stable pillar of light. Not just a human spectator that complains and, you know, self-absorbed in how things should be, or fearful of how things used to be and then project that into the next onset of our reality, but to rather allow life to be what it wants to be and be the vessel. So as always, so much love, wisdom, and power. Thank you for being here, for tuning in. All those of you supporting my work in any way, in any amount, there's always going to be an oracle of illumination. It looks like this, 3 oracles into your inbox. So thank you for that. It really helps to continue. It helps to, you know, the continuation of my work to be seamless and effortless in that way, in that manner. And those of you who support me on Patreon just as well, thank you so much. And I'll see you again soon in the next update. But until then, just feeling, drawing forth that depth of the essence. Take care. So Spirit has shown me a very simple practice and exercise, how we all can attune to and practice what it means to be a vessel. One of the very simple ways how we can shift our day-to-day consciousness is think of or be in the middle of something, let's say an issue that bothers us, or let's say a person that responds to us a certain way that puts us in a spotlight in terms of being triggered, or it wires us a certain way because we have been wired to always respond a certain way. Let's say we have been always carrying this feeling like people always treat us without respect, or they carry a certain way of communication towards us that feels inauthentic to us. It doesn't feel deserving. It feels like less than what we truly are and represent, because you know how sometimes people can be. And so when we imagine this situation or relationship or response, a person, an issue at hand, whatever it is, and we find ourselves in the midst of wanting to respond a certain way because we get triggered into this reactive mode. So being a vessel means that we don't really have to respond. We don't always have to respond a certain way. As humans, we're conditioned to think that we always have to send feedback. We have to always be engaging in communication, because if someone sends us something, you know, sends something towards us, we have to respond energetically. Responding from the essence level means that we don't always have to respond energy to energy. It means that we move into our core and feel into the best response, which oftentimes will be no response at all. So imagine that there's a situation in which you find yourself and there's someone pulling strings out of you, and there's someone that wants something from you or wants a certain thing. And when you always respond your old way, or maybe let's say you always want to be nice or kind or gentle or whatever, but you're still not getting the kind response that's aligned with respect and with love. So every time you're getting the same results is because every time you're bouncing back that energy that someone sends you back. And it's often with things we experience and situations that truly are conditioned. So to practice the essence level, we have to move into that non-responsive state. You know, we always say, well, the non-reactive state, but at a certain level, we also have to understand that we don't always have to respond energetically, because when we respond with words or whatever kind of means, we also respond energetically. So we use a lot of our energy to just basically continue the loop of certain communication that's not always best. So we end up depleting a lot of our life force because of that. So imagine there's a scenario in which you, through your mind, you have this, you know, desired response or something that you usually respond with, or how you respond. And now to practice being a vessel means that you just step away, almost like you're not there. Like, what if you weren't truly there? Who's that person truly communicating with? Someone who's, let's say, that's not communicating out of love. These are the situations I'm describing here. And what would that truly be like? It would truly be like they're actually conversating with themselves. They're actually creating that, engaging with themselves. So what you do in that practice surrender is you just basically give no feedback. You just basically become transparent. And that's not the same as being passive or ignorant, because you're not ignoring. Ignoring means that you basically pay no attention to that. You just forget about it from your mind level. But to move into the essence means that you are giving the gift of fuller presence to come to the forefront, and let life force sometimes in life just handle things. Because when you allow, when you truly surrender, meaning that you don't always have to engage with people, with situations, with the kind of level of communication that's not really respectful, or it's less than, you know, that unity consciousness, that deserving. And for us to master that, we have to start practicing that. So Spirit showed me a way to really step aside and imagine, what if you weren't there? Or how would you feel if you gave zero response with your energy, with your words, with your interaction? How would things unfold, right? They would still function. Something would still happen. Something would still be the messenger. And eventually, there would be a self-responsibility that would come back as a reflection to that person, to that situation, to that level of communication in its own natural time and space. Because we often create the inauthentic space when we actually share the kind of communication that we really don't want to be a part of. So what we're basically doing is we're forcing ourselves to be and act a certain way when the presence within us truly doesn't want that. It wants to create greater things. It wants to create greater expansion. So I'm showing you these beautiful yellow tree flowers because it's like this, you see how they're just hanging from the trunk of the tree, and they're just being, and they're just creating beauty just by being. And flowers truly remind us of that, especially these kind of flowers that only blossom, you know, once every few years. So imagine this higher self, higher presence of yours that you're now ready to step into, and create a higher space. Create a space where the resolution that sometimes the people want to receive from you, understand that you as a person, you're not the source of that resolution. You are your own individual. You have your own right to be silent or to speak in the way you want to, in the way, whether it's authentic. You have zero duties or obligations, or, you know, this is not about denying your responsibility to life. Like I said, this is not the same as being passive or ignorant. This is simply recognizing whether something is coming into your sacred space that's not of love, that's not supporting the mutual honoring and respect. Or let's say there's something that, or someone wants something from you, but you're not at the place of giving that in reciprocity. Let's say someone wants to manipulate a certain response out of you, or they want to, they have their own idea of what they want to receive or what they want to create, but it doesn't align with your heart. But a lot of times you will try to explain your way, but still the result won't truly change. It won't alternate the reality, because you haven't stepped into a fuller presence. You haven't embraced a bigger aspect of life, in which life is happening whether you're giving so much of your energy away or not. And that's that graceful presence, that flow, that higher refinement state, becoming the vessel and allowing yourself to be, and from that beingness create also through that beingness, not just to experience it internally, but externally act from it as a master of yourself, as a master of your pillar, your vortex, and simply respond to that which feels that it's of love. And don't always respond energetically to that which doesn't feel of love. Just filter through it. You have the right logic within divine capacity to understand that. It's just whether you follow through that understanding or you're forcing yourself to act against your authentic true love state. So when something feels not aligned and it feels like it's an extortion, it's a demand from you, and it wants to create an outcome that you don't resonate with, whether you feel or that other energy feels it's right or wrong, or it's not about that. It's about acting from this higher place where things resolve, sometimes better, or even more so, always through that law of non-responding to that which truly is of the lesser energy than true love, than unity consciousness. So first we must recognize that. Second, we need to withdraw, we need to step aside, we need to allow the higher forces to act through us. And then the last step is to follow that through and act consciously through that presence. And I hope this mini activation and attunement within this sharing of great divine wisdom helps you to better refine your reality, to respond to love, and to see and feel into when you simply don't want to respond to something that's not of love, and that's okay. And allow yourself to feel that way and to act that way and to be in alignment through all of that knowing. So enjoy, and be with truth in your heart always and forevermore.